Hi, this is John again with DJI products, and what we're going to do today is an actual, this will be the actual Mode 2 to Mode 1 conversion of the DJI Phantom radio system. And let's get started on this. As you can see, this is Mode 2 with the throttle on the left and what we normally refer to as elevator on the right. We're just going to switch those. So there are a lot of flyers that do fly mode 1, and if you're interested in how to do this, here we go. Okay, let's take a look at the back. And I don't have any batteries in this yet, but I'm going to grab a small Phillips screwdriver. We'll go ahead and take these. We've got 4 screws that we need to remove out of the back. Sometimes it's handy to have a magnetized screwdriver to do this. Helps pull the screws out. It's not a big deal. I mean, if they stay in the back, just be careful not to lose them. Give yourself a good workspace. If you're not comfortable doing mode conversions, don't try it yourself. If you've not done anything like this before, I really don't recommend it. There may be someone that you know that is also a flyer that has done these, or maybe you're in a club, you can find someone who has done these before. But take a look at this next part. There's a section here of the back case that actually fits into a small section up here where the antenna is mounted. And part of the case actually goes underneath of a section right there. So we just have to wiggle it a little bit and it pops right out. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to unplug the battery cable that goes over to the battery section of the transmitter. So we'll carefully get that unplugged and we can set this aside. So now we've got the radio ready to go here. This is my third conversion of a radio, and you can see where it's pretty simple. It's a very simple 2.4 gigahertz radio system, specifically designed for the DJI Phantom. And what we're going to do is we're going to change over the gimbal tensioner and ratchet. So we'll get that going right away. And first thing we need to do is we can remove the tension bar over here that actually applies force to this is for your throttle. It keeps your throttle in the correct position. So we're just going to remove this piece by piece. This is the hard mount for this tension bar. Let's get that screw out. The top one is actually the adjuster. Let's carefully get that out. Unscrew that, get that out. Okay, so we have these parts. Isolate those, from your parts. Then we have to take, the next thing we have to take out is this standoff post right here. We've got to get that pulled out. So I've actually got some nice nut drivers that I can use to get that out. It is threaded. Okay, let me see what size I'm using here in case you want to know. This is a 4mm nut driver. You probably won't find that at Sears. I've looked, unfortunately, but it is a hobby tool. If you go to a hobby shop, you will be able to find it. Now what we need to do is transfer the standoff from this location to this location, which is the mode 1 location. So I don't know if you can see it in the video here. We have a little hole. It's probably not pre-threaded, so you have to be a little bit careful with that. Let's go ahead and get that going. Thread that straight in. Again, we have to be careful when we're working with plastics that are pretty thin, thin wall plastics. Some of these Some of these holes are not pre-threaded, so you have to be a little bit careful. This one isn't doing too bad, but we thread it all the way in until it stops. I'm going to make sure it's seated correctly all the way down. Okay, it looks like it is. Okay. Okay. Now we can take and we need to remove a spring and little section that centers this gimbal. So what we have is a little tiny spring on this little bar, and we need just a very simple tool, small needle nose pliers, to remove this spring, pull it out, set it aside. Now we can remove this little centering bar. It just folds up and pulls off of a little pin, and it transfers directly to this other side. Now, before I do that, I have a little bit of grease that I'm going to put on a couple of the components here. Just a drop. You can use like Vaseline, petroleum jelly. I wouldn't use wheel bearing grease. I'm actually using a gun grease that is safe for plastics. I'm just going to put a little drop of grease on a couple of little components here that centering bar will run against. Okay, so we've got grease on there. We'll take the bar and we're transferring it over to this location, putting it into place. And now the part that is just a smidge tricky is putting the spring back in this location, and it's really not too tough. I've done a lot of these, so I don't consider it too difficult, but you just have to be able to see where to hook it on the bottom and then bring it up to the top. Sometimes it takes a little practice to get that just in the right spot. There we go. Okay, so that was, yep. Okay, everything looks good there. It's hooked on its lower mount, and it's hooked on the upper bar. Everything looks good. I'm going to double check it and make sure. Looks fine. Okay. And there are some screws that you can use to adjust the tension. This screw and this screw will adjust the tension on the gimbal to make it have a little bit more stronger feel. It'll center with a little bit more authority. Basically, what those do is they tighten up the two springs a little bit. And if you want to tighten them up, that's fine. Just don't overdo them at all. These gimbals are not precision gimbals, and if you tighten those screws too much, they will jam and cause the gimbal to stick. So I would not over tighten them. Leave them visible. I would recommend, what I have here is about 1/8 of an inch visibility on those. And I think that would be pretty good. My very first conversion that I did on a DJI Phantom radio was I did the conversion and I thought, wow, I really want more tension, so I screwed those screws down all the way, and it caused the gimbals to jam up pretty good. They wouldn't even move. So if you have to have absolutely a lot more tension than what you're getting here, which is plenty, on my first conversion I actually got the Futaba heavy-duty springs and replaced all